Thank you, Sarah, for joining in this CoFE Conversations. I mean, we call it CoFE Conversations because it's also, one of our sites is Collective for Equality, in addition to Asia Biz Today, where we kind of profile female founders, female leaders, and women entrepreneurs, right? So this is perfect that it sits between Collective for Equality and Asia Biz Today, where we do a lot of coverage around business technology, Web3, blockchain, and stuff like that. Yeah. Can you give me a little bit of background about yourself? I mean, how did you get down to into getting into this particular field, and how did you come about starting the DACC?
Sure. It's really nice to connect with you. So I'm Sarah, co-founder of the DACC Digital Asset Clearing Center. My background started with traditional finance. I had my job at Goldman Sachs, and then I went to Stanford for business school. I was actually in the venture capital business, so investing in this space back in 2017 in digital assets, in token as well as crypto fund of funds. It was really when I was on the venture capital side, another VC approached me and say, why don't we give you $4 million to start, the company? And so I went from an investor, being an entrepreneur, and, just went on this journey. And for DACC, so started in the US, but really for DACC started around 4 years ago when we think about international expansion, especially in Asia. And at the time, Hong Kong was really making a big push for Web3 tokenization. So we went ahead and kind of really put our focus in the market. So DACC headquarters in Hong Kong. We have 12 institutional, mostly Asia investors, and 4 public traded companies, 2 Hong Kong listed companies, and 2 mainland listed companies on our cap table.
So today, I mean, DACC sits at the intersection of traditional finance and digital assets. So how would you describe the core problem that you are trying to kind of solve, particularly for banks, financial institutions, and enterprises looking for tokenized assets?
So I think we are all kind of agreeing that the future of assets, right, the financial products, assets, will be more and more on blockchain. So we talk about the tokenizations. And however, I think every region has its uniqueness and killer products and how the ecosystem will grow. The way we see it in Hong Kong is Hong Kong plays a unique role where, they're focusing on tokenizations. So on one hand, you have assets that are going to be on the blockchain. Specifically, we see killer product in Hong Kong to be digital bonds. And Hong Kong continue to be the center for, bond issuance in Asia or the world. I mean, specifically for Chinese institutions or many others. But a unique part for this Web3 ecosystem for Hong Kong is, I think we learned it, especially from the Chinese mainland. They want the money to be off the blockchain. Even though Hong Kong has stablecoin regime, they wanted to promote, their off-chain payment infrastructure, especially CIPS, cross-border interbank payment system, for cross-border RMB, something similar to SWIFT, for USD dollar transactions. But those are off the blockchain payment infrastructure as well as digital RMBs. So I think where DACC trying to solve is when you have assets that are on the blockchain wanting to settle with money when payment system that's off the blockchain. We provided, this payment gateway, we call it DACC Chain Fusion, where we're supporting cross-chain, cross-blockchain, assets, private blockchain, public blockchain, as well as cross-payment gateway. So there are stablecoins on the public blockchains, Enbridge for Hong Kong's on private blockchain, but also the off-blockchain payment infrastructure such as SWIFT, CIPS, and digital RMB.
So obviously, as you mentioned, I mean, there is today a lot of discussion around tokenization, but adoption still depends on trusted infrastructure. So what, according to you, are the key building blocks, needed for tokenized bonds, stable coins, and digital assets to move from pilots into mainstream? I mean, increasingly, one does hear about a lot of cross-border transfers, depending on the stable coins to do that. But according to you, I mean, what is the kind of trusted infrastructure that needs to exist?
So I think one is what I mentioned about, I just shared about the DACC transfusion, right? So the settlement infrastructure for tokenized asset or digital bonds was, off the blockchain's money settlement system. So I think that's one. And second is where DACC is also piloting is taking digital bonds that are issued on private blockchains and make it to be available for retail, which it has never been done in the world. And why it is uniquely here for DACC in Hong Kong is Hong Kong government is pioneering in the digital bond space. Like they have issued the largest amount by transaction for digital bonds compared to any government in the world. And they continue to see that as, the government strategy. So the government is taking this, initiative for, doing the digital bonds on its own, trying to showcase to the market. And on top of that, where DACC is making it even more accessible and having more liquidity is, taking this cross-chain capabilities to, bring that digital assets issued by the government bond for retail distributions through existing, financial institutions, banks, broker-dealers in Hong Kong as well as internationally, is that including Central Asia, Southeast Asia, and globally. So I think that's where, it needs a lot of technology enablement as well, where you're talking about bridging from private blockchain, public blockchain. You're talking about infrastructure integrations for retail. So one of the advantage for DACC is four of the public traded companies on our cap table. They are, three of them are existing Web2 large fintech Asian companies. So one of them called TTL, they have over 50% of the market share in Hong Kong for banks and broker-dealer. And what it has benefiting for DACC is the existing broker-dealer systems integrating with our infrastructure so that from the banks and broker-dealer perspective, it's seamless. They don't really kind of feel the difference because they're still using existing broker-dealer systems for trading, but now they're able to access digital bonds, tokenized assets. They're able to access and receive stablecoins because the existing, banking and broker-dealer infrastructures already integrated with DACC infrastructure.
This infrastructure, I mean, how does it in terms of, the benefits, let's say in terms of the speed of transaction, the security, the cost of transaction, I mean, does this really have a great impact on that?
Yeah, for sure. So I think specifically for, for cross-border transactions, people sometimes still, complain about Swift's transaction for cross-border can take 3 to 5 days. But, for this new called DACC transfusion or this new way of settlements when, we can do finality for blockchain assets and then payment system, it can substantially reduce the cross-border payment time from, 3 to 5 days to seconds.
You just now mentioned about Hong Kong and obviously DACC is headquartered in Hong Kong. So Hong Kong has been positioning itself as a digital assets and Web3 finance hub in the last few years. So what do you think makes Hong Kong uniquely placed to develop areas such as digital bonds, cross-border RMB settlement, tokenized deposits, and stablecoin-based payments?
So there are a few things. One is, Hong Kong, has been an international financial hub traditionally and globally. So I think where they're sitting an intersection is how can they actually, taking what they already have, but, also strive in the tokenization world or in the Web3 world. And I think where we are seeing there's a few drivers. So number one, the government is taking initiatives. So, they have been issuing, I think, 3 Hong Kong government bonds since 2021. So it's been a few years. And they continue to see that as their initiative. So they wanted to do more. There's a white paper that we jointly participated with the Hong Kong Economic Council on June 22nd, which the government talked about they will potentially consider even tokenize Hong Kong existing government bond, and also making a quota for retail participation for Hong Kong government digital bonds. So they're trying to promote more participants, more liquidity in the market. And the other thing I think Hong Kong plays gradually and will be more important is the support for RMB internalizations. And you think about money moving, I mean, 70% of that is cross-border money and is for, asset settlements. So when you're thinking about Hong Kong continue to be issuing bonds and digital bonds, and then with the, also Beijing's push for, RMB transactions and in how the world is moving, Hong Kong plays a unique role to kind of like scale this ecosystem and then secure its position.
So, stablecoins are increasingly being discussed not just as crypto instrument, but more as payment and settlement rails. So how do you see stablecoins evolving within regulated financial systems, especially in Asia?
I mean, in the US market, we're definitely seeing like a 2 kilo product, like stablecoins, like more increasing larger stablecoins buying more US debt. And then with that, they are also able to buy more tokenized equities, right? So more money pouring into the US capital market. For Asia, there are quite a lot of jurisdictions. So I think where DACC's focus is in Hong Kong. So I think we do see, I think there are 2, banks that are issuing stablecoins in Hong Kong. And I think they are, going to be different use cases around the banking ecosystem. I think we're going to see in Hong Kong. So I think overall, it's, this ability where money can move more seamlessly. And then I think for Hong Kong, given the issuers are banks, so I think they could also be, use cases that enable like more efficient banking transactions. So I think there will be more, and then also for trading as well. So definitely that's something we also support. I mean, for our DACC platform, we support, stablecoin in and out for trading, and that's, connected to existing banks and broker-dealer systems. So definitely are looking forward to, the upcoming stablecoins in Hong Kong.
For institutional players, I mean, compliance is a central concern when it comes to digital assets. So how does DACC approach these issues, such as custody clearing, KYC, settlement, etc.?
So I mean, when dealing with financial institutions, it's really about, compliance and policy procedures. So I think banks and financial institutions operated based on, regulated policies. So every activities, I would say, or every divisions within DACC has embedded compliance and risk. And that really kind of span across, our custody solutions where they are always check and balance and always multi-approvals and always backups. And then also segregation of assets and duties. And that's really to ensure, the security, the compliance, and then also, the ability of trust for our clients and also for regulators. And even we are also in the process for, becoming regulated custodian with the upcoming SFC license. It's also a necessary process and a necessary kind of like steps for regulatory approvals and to be regulated, and then to make sure that all the transactions that are also compliant and meeting with regulatory environment in Hong Kong and globally.
As digital asset infrastructure becomes more mature, do you see a growing convergence between the traditional financial systems like banks, blockchain networks, payment systems, and exchanges? I mean, where do you see the future of cross-border finance?
Now we are seeing cross-border finance or like payments to have multiple streams, right? So there was public blockchain infrastructure, there's private blockchain infrastructure for tokenized deposit, and then there's also, we say, the off blockchain, right? Traditional kind of CIPS or SWIFT kind of like infrastructures. So I think but where all the direction is leading is digital, and it's more efficient settlements, and that's just the trend. Like we're entering into AI, digital, and fast transaction and settlements, and I think that's where all sectors, and including financial sectors, are heading. So I think the future of cross-border finance, definitely we're dealing with also assets on the blockchain, as well as many kind of different forms of money now, whether that's on the blockchain or not on the blockchain. But I think that kind of multi-money kind of forms as where our futures would be.
Now, this whole blockchain, Web3, crypto sectors, they have been often perceived to be very male-dominated. So as a woman founder and a chair in this space, how have you navigated the industry, and do you see more women entering leadership roles in digital finance?
Different regions have different. I think starting in the US, still, I think the number we're seeing for VC investing into female founder was still like 1.8% back in 2025, or so it's still small. I would say, I think, different. So I think in the US market, it's definitely is very male dominated. But I mean, to my surprise, I mean, in Hong Kong market, I see so many female banking CEOs, and even the like CIO, like chief information officers in the banks. There's so many, they're women. And then I was very fortunate. For example, I mentioned about like the TTL CEO, she's a woman. Like women in Hong Kong really support women. And then I'm truly like amazed by how they are, but also men. It was really interesting because one of our directors at DACC was a former Asia CEO for SWIFT. And then I remember having conversations with one of our investors. It was a prospect investor at the time. And he was mentioning that, you need to drink with the investors so that they would invest. And really funny because like for the public traded companies, CEOs or chairmen, like they pour tea for me, not like alcohol, which is completely different in the US. So I think men there in Hong Kong, I mean, they also very respect women. I think it's a unique place. So as my experience, and definitely I think I'm like really admired by so many strong women and women leaderships in the Hong Kong market and banking as well.
So what would be your advice to women professionals in the finance, technology, or regulation space who are curious about blockchain, tokenization, and digital assets, but still kind of not very sure about entering it?
And actually, for me, I mean, starting in the US, I learned and now really kind of prioritized women-focused conferences, because in the beginning, as you mentioned, it's really male-dominated, and it was really frightening. I mean, I was most of the time like the only female founder in like really large tech conferences, and it just doesn't learn well. And then I just started to go to like female started like women conferences. For example, like I've been sponsoring like a conference called Women in Digital Asset Forum that started by one of my board member in the US, and and for 4 years, and it's really about putting the woman on stage, and the participants are also women, and in general that really makes me feel safe, and that really forms trusting relationship, which could really kind of lend business opportunities. And I encourage, I think, but people wanted to be in this space to do that as well. I mean, for me, I benefit a lot. So I think that is an opportunity as well.
Just going back to our digital assets discussion, I mean, with so much of artificial intelligence coming in, and now you have agentic AI also coming into the area. So how is that going to impact or benefit your business? I mean, you see more individuals actually, or even institutions relying on agentic AI to manage their digital assets.
So it's definitely a focus for us. We cannot disclose at this stage, but we're also making an acquisition for, a fintech companies for AI. So I think AI is the future for, whatever industry and for our industry as well. So yeah, so that's definitely a future where, I mean, it's gonna incorporate it in many elements of our business.
So, looking ahead 3 to 5 years from now, what would success look like for DACC? And what role do you hope the company will play in shaping the future of regulated finance industry in Asia?
DACC is uniquely positioned as the open financial market infrastructures in Hong Kong and connecting Hong Kong and Chinese mainland. And we're aspiring, growing this tokenization ecosystem along with promoting RMB internalizations. And we're seeing this is the future. I mean, this is going to grow faster and faster, and we're also optimistic about continued the growing future for the bond and digital bond markets in Hong Kong, and we would like it to make it more accessible for global investors. And DACC wanted to play an important role for retail distribution for digital bonds as well. So I think we're very optimistic for the next 3 to 5 years.
And do you think the whole internationalization of RMB, I mean, the increasing importance of RMB as a international currency, given the geopolitical situation and the pressure on the US dollar and stuff like that, does that kind of lend very positively to the fact that you are based in Hong Kong and connected to the Chinese mainland? Do you see this playing out to your benefit over the next, in the short to medium term?
Yeah, I think it's the fact, right? Chinese is the second largest economy in the world, and yeah, I mean, we're actually seeing international, global financial institutions that have to increase the weight for them to hold RMB as well, and definitely, I think if the tokenizations and digital bonds continue to increase, and that's a great use case for cross-border RMBs. I think we're seeing the trend, and I think we're supported by the governments and the initiatives and the market demands as well.
Great. Wonderful, Sarah. It was a pleasure speaking with you, and we'll stay connected and watch where DACC goes as the kind of digital finance kind of matures over the next few years.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it as well. Let's keep in touch.